Breaking, Karma walked into Parliament expecting an ordinary Wednesday, and 90 seconds later, he emerged a shattered figure. Nigel Farage struck with such ruthless precision that even seasoned MPs were frozen in disbelief. The footage has already gone viral, racking up 6 million views in just 3 hours, and what followed could cripple Labour's government before it even takes off. Here's how the political carnage unfolded. Yesterday at 2:47 p.m., Starmer took his place at the dispatch box for Prime Minister's questions, ready for routine inquiries on the NHS, immigration, and the economy. His team had prepared him for everything, except Nigel Farage's ambush. Farage had sat quietly in the chamber for 30 minutes, watching, waiting, timing his strike with sniper-like accuracy. His question wasn't on the order paper. At 2:51 p.m., he rose, and the room fell silent. MPs from both sides leaned in. Something in the air shifted. Farage held up a single sheet of paper and began, his voice calm but lethal. "Prime Minister, can you explain to the British people why your Chancellor secretly met EU officials in Brussels last Thursday to discuss rejoining the customs union?" The words landed like a bomb, and Starmer's face went pale. His eyes flicked toward Rachel Reeves, 3 seats away, frozen in shock. The entire Labour front bench looked as if they'd been struck. No one outside that inner circle was supposed to know about the Brussels trip. Officially, it was classified as personal business, and any discussion of the customs union was meant to stay secret. Yet Farage held every detail, exact times, locations, and the names of EU commissioners present, and he wasn't done. Raising his voice, he pressed further. "Do you deny that draft proposals were discussed to harmonize UK tax policy with Brussels within 18 months? Starmer tried to respond, but his voice faltered. "The honourable member is misinformed about private discussions." Farage cut him off, technically breaking parliamentary rules, but no one intervened because there was nothing private about undermining British sovereignty. The chamber erupted. Conservative MPs roared their approval, Labour MPs shouted in protest, and Speaker Lindsay Hoy pounded the gavel 16 times trying to restore order. Starmer attempted to recover, mumbling about maintaining trade relationships, but his words were swallowed by the chaos. MPs later called it the worst performance they'd ever seen from a sitting Prime Minister. In just 90 seconds, his authority had vanished. Yet the ambush was no accident. Sources inside Reform UK confirmed that Farage had known about the Brussels meeting for 11 days. He timed every move, choosing Prime Minister's questions for maximum cameras, structuring the attack to leave Starmer no escape. One anonymous strategist said, "Nigel spent a week running through every possible response." Every response Starmer could muster had already been anticipated, with a follow-up ready to strike. This wasn't just politics, it was psychological warfare. And it succeeded far beyond Farage's expectations because Starmer's team never saw it coming. Labour's opposition research had been focused entirely on Conservative MPs and anticipated attacks from Rishi Sunak, completely underestimating Farage as a serious threat, a miscalculation that cost them everything. Intelligence suggests the leak originated from a mid-level EU official sympathetic to Brexit and alarmed by secret reunification discussions. Multiple journalists confirmed they were offered the same documents. The Guardian declined. The Times is still verifying, but Farage acted first, fastest, and now controls the narrative entirely. Political historians are already likening the ambush to Geoffrey Howe's resignation speech that shook Margaret Thatcher, with one parliamentary sketchwriter calling it the most devastating 90 seconds in modern British politics. Meanwhile, ordinary Britons are paying the real price. Veterans who fought for the nation's freedom struggled to access basic healthcare. Dennis Parker, a 71-year-old veteran from Portsmouth, waited 11 months for a hip replacement, 11 months of pain after serving his country, only to be sidelined while political leaders debate returning sovereignty to Brussels. His story is far from unique. Thousands of veterans endure similar delays, neglect, and a sense of betrayal, while Starmer and his cabinet hold secret meetings with EU officials in luxurious Brussels hotels. Veterans endure long waits in NHS corridors for basic care. Margaret Davies, a 67-year-old army nurse from Wales who served in Bosnia, waited 14 months for a cancer screening, 14 months while Labour ministers attended champagne receptions abroad. She survived but told local media, "I risked my life for British independence, and now they're selling it for a few trade agreements." The Royal British Legion released a rare statement yesterday, calling the government's priorities deeply troubling when veterans cannot access care while billions are pledged for international commitments, a stark signal of how far Labour has lost the support of Britain's military community. The contrast is so sharp, so morally outrageous, that even traditionally Labour-supporting veterans groups are demanding Starmer's resignation. Men and women who sacrificed everything for the nation now watch as their Prime Minister appears poised to hand sovereignty away behind closed doors. Emily Watson, 59, whose son died serving in Afghanistan, recorded a video that has gone viral with 3 million views. "My boy gave his life for this country's freedom," she said through tears. And Starmer is ready to trade it away for what? A few trade agreements? Some bureaucratic nonsense in Brussels. The optics are devastating, and it gets worse. While veterans wait and ordinary Britons struggle with soaring living costs, Labour ministers indulge in EU hospitality funded by taxpayers, costs that remain unaccounted for. Freedom of information requests about the Brussels trips have been rejected on national security grounds. National security. Think about that. The government refuses to disclose how much was spent negotiating away British sovereignty. The gap between Starmer's public promises and private actions has never been more glaring, or more insulting, to citizens who believed his pledges on national interest and sovereignty. Then, something unprecedented occurred. Within 2 hours of Farage's ambush in Parliament, King Charles took an action no modern monarch has dared since World War II. During a scheduled meeting with Australian diplomats at Buckingham Palace, he made an unscripted remark, which insiders say was carefully calculated. "One must wonder whether the people's will expressed in referendums ought to carry more weight than backroom negotiations." The words were deliberately measured, vague enough to avoid a constitutional crisis, yet pointed enough for the intended target to understand. Senior palace sources, speaking anonymously, confirmed that Charles had been briefed that morning on the leaked Brussels meeting and asked 3 times for verification before choosing to speak. Royal protocol demands total political neutrality. The Crown never comments on government policy, never challenges prime ministers, never courts scandal. Yet Charles just shattered 70 years of precedent with 19 deliberate words. Constitutional experts were quick to grasp the gravity. Professor James Whitmore of Cambridge called it the most direct royal intervention in government policy since the abdication crisis. The message to Starmer was unmistakable: "You've gone too far." What makes this even more striking is the context now revealed by palace insiders. Charles reportedly consulted former prime ministers from both sides of the aisle before speaking. Tony Blair urged caution, Theresa May stressed the King's constitutional duty to intervene, and Boris Johnson allegedly warned, "If you don't say something, you're complicit in destroying what the people voted for." These discussions took place over an intense 36 hours, during which the King barely slept, weighing whether any intervention would preserve or destabilize constitutional order. His decision to speak, even obliquely, signals that he considers Labour's Brussels negotiations a serious constitutional threat. The optics are devastating for Labour, the King, the nation's symbol of tradition and sovereignty, implicitly questioning the Prime Minister's respect for the 2016 referendum. Palace sources indicate Charles is deeply concerned about constitutional stability and fears that secret negotiations could provoke another divisive referendum crisis. Sources close to the King say he spent Tuesday evening studying historical examples of monarchs intervening during constitutional crises, from George V's role in the 1931 economic turmoil to Elizabeth II's emergency meetings during the 1976 IMF crisis, underscoring just how serious this moment has become. A senior courtier told The Telegraph, His Majesty believes Brexit, regardless of personal opinion, represents a democratic mandate that cannot be overturned through backroom diplomacy. He's defending democracy itself. The fallout was immediate and severe. Within 3 hours of Farage's parliamentary ambush, £1.8 billion was wiped from the FTSE 100 as markets reacted to political instability. The pound fell 1.3% against the dollar, reaching its lowest point since last September, with currency traders pricing in a potential government collapse within 6 months. Analysts warned that business investment would stall until Westminster resolves the crisis, with major corporations reportedly postponing UK expansion projects. 3 international firms alone have paused factory openings totaling £400 million. The Confederation of British Industry issued a rare political statement demanding immediate clarity on government policy, a clear signal that business leaders have lost confidence in Starmer's leadership. Internationally, the response was swift and damaging. In Washington, Republican senators released a joint statement questioning whether Britain under Starmer can still be considered a reliable NATO ally if its sovereignty is negotiable. Senator Tom Cotton called it deeply concerning that America's closest ally could be sliding back under European bureaucratic influence. Democratic senators remained silent, sending a clear message, while the White House declined comment, diplomatic code for growing concern. French President Macron's office issued a cautiously worded statement about constructive dialogue, which EU insiders read as subtle gloating over Britain's turmoil. In Brussels, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen neither confirmed nor denied the meeting. Diplomatic speak for yes, it happened. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz implied Britain was reconsidering past decisions, signaling that EU leaders see Starmer as backtracking on Brexit, while Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni stressed that democratic referendums must be respected, and Poland's foreign minister expressed surprise and disappointment at the apparent policy shift. On social media, the reaction was explosive. #RussellS betrayal shot to the top of global trends within 90 minutes. TikTok clips mocking Starmer's faltering responses racked up 43 million views, while a meme portraying him as a puppet controlled by EU strings went viral across 8 countries within 6 hours. Instagram filled with parody movie posters, including The Empire Strikes Back, Brussels edition, showing EU buildings looming over Westminster. The most impactful content came from ordinary Britons, recording their own frustrations. Sarah Mitchell, a 64-year-old shop owner from Birmingham, posted a tearful video that cut through Labour's working-class image. "We voted for Brexit twice," she said, voice trembling. "How many times do we have to vote before politicians listen?" That single clip amassed 4.2 million views, quickly followed by dozens of similar citizen-recorded videos. A fisherman from Cornwall, a factory worker from Manchester, a nurse from Leeds, all voicing the same sense of betrayal, the same anger, the same belief that democracy is meaningless if politicians ignore it. Emergency polling from YouGov shows Starmer's approval rating plummeted from 41% to 27% in just 48 hours, wiping out Labour's lead over the Conservatives. Nationally, the party dropped 6 points, and in red wall constituencies that had delivered Labour majorities, support collapsed by double digits. Seats Labour had won for the first time in decades now lean Conservative or Reform. Focus groups reveal even lifelong Labour voters feel betrayed by the secret Brussels meetings. One participant said, "I voted Labour my whole life. Never again." Protests have erupted across 17 cities. In Manchester, crowds blocked traffic outside Labour headquarters chanting "Respect the referendum," while thousands gathered in London outside Parliament demanding Starmer's resignation. Police described it as the largest spontaneous political demonstration since the 2000 fuel protests. In Liverpool, demonstrators burned an EU flag outside the council building, a striking symbol of how far Labour has lost its traditional base. Inside Number 10, the mood is toxic and paranoid. Senior aides describe Starmer as unrecognizable, pacing corridors at 3 a.m., obsessively refreshing social media, snapping at staff over minor issues. One aide said he threw a briefing folder across his office after seeing the latest polling, while another claimed he stopped attending morning briefings to avoid facing the numbers. Emergency cabinet meetings have devolved into shouting matches, with Chancellor Rachel Reeves allegedly confronting Foreign Secretary David Lammy over leaks intended to undermine her leadership prospects. Lammy reportedly slammed a door so hard it cracked the frame, forcing security to intervene. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner was overheard saying, "He's finished and he knows it," having stopped publicly defending Starmer and cancelling all press appearances. WhatsApp groups within Labour's parliamentary party now bear names like Post-Star Planning and New Direction, where MPs openly discuss succession timetables. One group, the 48, references the number of MPs required to trigger a no-confidence vote. Membership has reportedly reached 53. The question is no longer if they will move against him, but when. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has gone silent, refusing interviews and canceling engagements, a move insiders interpret as quietly positioning for leadership. Shadow cabinet members now qualify every statement with "if the allegations are proven false," a clear signal of abandonment. Veteran Labour MP Barry Gardiner said, "I've been in Parliament 30 years, and I've never seen a Prime Minister lose his party this quickly." Trade union leaders who backed Starmer's leadership campaign are demanding answers. Unite called the Brussels meeting troubling, if true, while the GMB suspended cooperation with Number 10 pending full disclosure. Starmer is politically isolated. The parliamentary math is brutal. Labour holds a 174-seat majority, yet at least 40 MPs would support a no-confidence vote tomorrow, with 7 already publicly calling for his resignation. The rebellion grows by the hour, and local Labour parties are passing motions criticizing the leadership at an unprecedented pace for a prime minister in their first year. Sources say Starmer is now surviving on just 4 hours of sleep a night, leaning heavily on caffeine. One aide said he assumed an election victory meant he'd won the public's trust, but he's learning the hard way that trust must be earned every day. Public visits have been cancelled, effectively trapping him in Downing Street. Leaked documents suggest the Brussels meeting was far from casual. EU officials allegedly presented a timeline for customs union alignment, including tax harmonization by 2026, European court rulings by 2027, and full customs union membership by mid-2027, with draft treaty language and messaging strategies included. One section, reportedly titled Managing Democratic Opposition, could end Starmer's career if verified. Legal experts warn these negotiations may breach constitutional conventions, with former Attorney General Geoffrey Cox calling it potentially the most serious constitutional violation in modern British history, making prior scandals look trivial. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage has remained calm and disciplined, telling supporters in front of a Union Jack, "We don't need to attack the Prime Minister. He's doing that himself." Reform UK's membership is surging, donations are flooding in, and polls now show the party tied with Labour nationally, while bookmakers slash odds on Farage becoming Prime Minister. The next 72 hours will determine Britain's future. Emergency meetings are scheduled, markets are falling, and public trust is collapsing. Britain faces a political, constitutional, and economic crisis all at once. The questions now are stark. Will Starmer resign before Labour forces him out? Has King Charles just changed British politics forever? And could Nigel Farage really be measuring the curtains at Number 10? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this story, and subscribe. The next chapter of this constitutional crisis is just beginning.